Welcome back to another episode of the Power to Pivot podcast. We are talking today about the latest book from Space Wizard Science Fantasy, Only a Chapter. Author Heather Tracy is here with us. Heather, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I love, love, love the concept for Only a Chapter. Um, Tell us a little bit about the book.
So the really short version is that it is a what would happen if parallel universe romance with a bisexual main character who has dreams of a faceless romantic partner. And it features some of my own personal journey with breast cancer in a fictionalized way to inform one of the timelines of the story.
Oh my gosh. Like, where, how, when did you decide when did this come to you as an idea?
So, it really all started about 10 years ago, in 2015. I wrote what would be the first, um, part of this book, because it is only a chapter. So the book is actually broken up into parts as opposed to chapters, um, which is a little sneaky thing that I did. Um, but anyway, what would be the first part of this book? Um, I wrote back in 2015, I believe, on one of the writing excuses retreat cruises. And then I finished the book in a NaNoWriMo somewhere around there. And it had to do with the dreams of the faceless person, which actually stems from my life as well, because when I was in high school and college, I had dreams of this faceless man who was always wearing a tuxedo, and he would do these romantic things for me and everything. So that was basically the book. And but it just kind of sat there. It didn't have enough heart. It didn't have a lot of tension. So I just kind of put it aside for about 10 years, um, a little less than 10 years. And then in 2022, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And after going through treatment, and finishing treatment in the beginning of 2023, I really wanted to do something with that. Mostly just therapy for myself,
Mhm.
to get that story out there, to work through all those feelings that I had going through diagnosis and treatment, and just dealing with that word, cancer. Um, and I'm not a journaler. I'm not really a nonfiction writer. And so I thought, what if I made this a fictionalized story? And then anybody who's ever had any kind of diagnosis, whether it's cancer or something else, always thinks, what if I didn't have this? Um, so I thought, what if I took that story that's been sitting there on the shelf for a while, and I made it a what would happen if, and I gave the character two different timelines where in one timeline she has cancer, the other timeline she gets a call and it's benign and she doesn't have cancer. How would her life be different? How would her romances be different? So I kind of got to explore that for myself and, for the characters as well.
It's amazing. Like, how cathartic was this for you? Like, did you feel different, sort of, I guess, healed in a way after you finished the book? Like, how did it help you as you were moving through this process?
I mean, it was definitely therapeutic to write all the cancer scenes. It was also difficult to write the cancer scenes. Um, and it was also easy to write the cancer scenes. All of those things at once. Um, I told my friends when they were beta reading it that I had the most typos in some of those scenes that held the most emotion because I was writing them down so fast to get all of those emotions out quickly. Um, and I was literally crying during some of those scenes when I was writing them. And if I go back, when I was going back and revising and rereading them, I will still tear up thinking about those scenes. And I mean, they're fictionalized a bit for the story that I told because I was not going through a romance when I was going through cancer. Claire has some of my aspects, but she is not me. But most of the cancer journey that she goes through is mine. So I can see, I can feel a lot of the things that she feels. And so I will still get very emotional with it. But at the same time, it was great to get that story out there. Um, and for other people who may know somebody in their life who is going through something like this, to be able to read about it and say, oh, well, I never would have thought about that. To kind of be able to empathize a little more with their friend or their family member. Even though everybody's story, everybody's cancer journey is different, it may give them some other ways to understand how their friend or family member may be feeling.
Mm-hmm. What about for that woman who is going through it now, or maybe she is in remission? What do you feel this is going to bring for her?
I think, it may bring up some of those same feelings that I have when I'm reading it myself. Um, and you know, and that's okay. I mean, it's therapeutic sometimes to think about that, what you've gone through and what you've lived through. But, I hope that it brings, some healing as well. Um, and, as I said, everybody's story is a little bit different. So I've had a couple friends who have had breast cancer who have read it, who have said, that they can see some aspects that they get, um, like some of the testing and the going in for chemo, or if they didn't have chemo, maybe the radiation portion, um, and things like that. Um, but they may choose to gloss over that portion and focus more on the other timeline where there is no cancer, or focus more on the romance part, um, and that kind of thing. Um, but I think they'll still be able to find some touch points that might relate to their own stories, and maybe therapeutic as well for them.
I think it's a really creative way to explore all of the things that you've just shared. What was, I guess, one of the most challenging pieces, and then what was one of the maybe less challenging or the most fun part of the writing process for you?
So one of the most difficult things was balancing the timelines. So making sure that the cancer timeline was not the heaviest timeline, or the one timeline. Because like if you've ever seen the movie Sliding Doors, which this is kind of like that movie, and I highly recommend that movie. It's a great movie. Um, I didn't want there to be, in the end, one true timeline.
Mm-hmm.
These are two multiverses, if you will. Um, I am a big nerd, and I love Marvel and that sort of concept of, the multiverse. And so I didn't want there to, in the end, there's just one true timeline. So these are just congruent timelines that are going on simultaneously. So trying to balance the other timeline to make there be enough tension and enough heart in that one as well without the cancer card was a bit challenging, and I needed a lot of help from my husband slash developmental editor slash publisher to help me with that, and some advice from friends as well and beta readers. Um, and one of the most fun parts, I think, is that I love music. And music was a big part of my life when I was going through my cancer journey as well. Songs definitely hit differently when you're going through something like that. I mean, any kind of challenging time, really, or happy times. And so, and I, even in the original story 10 years ago, one of the main characters, um, plays the cello for the North Carolina Symphony. So I knew I was going to have some classical music mentioned. But at some point, I decided that I was going to name each chapter after song titles, or each part, sorry, each part after song titles. Um, so I got to have a lot of fun with making the part titles for each timeline connect with each other. So like the first two are Set Fire to the Rain by Adele and Here Comes the Rain Again by Eurythmics.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both connected by the word rain. And then some other ones may be connected by the same artist. Like I've got two Switchfoot songs that are in a pairing. Some of the connections may be a little bit more uh a bit deeper, that it may take people a little bit more thought process to figure out what I was thinking at the time. But that was a lot of fun, and I got to have a spreadsheet going with my outline to try to figure out how I was going to do that. Um, and there's a song list in the back of the book that gives all the titles, all the songs, and all the artists as well, so that people, if they want to make their own song list or if they want to see if they can figure out what I was thinking, pairing them up, they can do that and maybe discover some new music or new artists that they might like.
I love that. You get a book and a playlist. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
um, what was the process like going through this with your husband as your editor publisher?
Um, it's great. I mean, I love him, obviously. And
Writing this book
I was sorry.
publisher.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, it is difficult to get constructive criticism sometimes from the people that you love the most. But we have been together, we've been married for almost 21 years now, and we've been together even longer than that. So, um, we've figured out how to work through those kinds of things. And, I know because he's developmental edited every single book for Space Wizard, that he knows what he's doing. He knows what's going to help the book. And that I, uh, didn't have to take all of his feedback, but I would need to, um, you know, look critically at his feedback to understand what's going to help the book the most
Mhm.
and, what I felt like was going to work with what I was trying to get out of the book.
um what what comes next for you? Like, is there going to be a sequel? Is there going to be a follow-up to this, do you think? Is this sort of your debut into the writing world where maybe you'll write something else, or is something already in the works?
So I do have a couple of short stories. I One has already been published last year in our Fiery Deeps anthology. And that's actually my first published work. So this is my second, my first novel. And then my second short story will be coming out in our Lesbians in Space anthology that releases in June. Um, and that short story will is actually basically Star Trek fan fiction, because as I said, huge nerd. Um, but the um, I do plan to write two more books in this series. However, it's going to be more like um, a standalone series, if that makes any sense, where if you read all three books, you'll get all the fun Easter eggs, you'll see all the characters popping in and out of each book, but each book can also be read as a full standalone. So, like, if breast cancer is triggering for you and you can't read this book, that's fine. You could read the next one.
Right.
Um, and you could read the next two and you could see those characters, crossing over into those books. But um, that's something that's been done a little bit in contemporary fiction recently, and I really enjoy that. Where, if you start on book two, it doesn't really matter because you can always go back and read book one and not be missing anything.
Right.
Um, that kind of thing. So.
I love it. Where can people find your book?
So the easiest place to find it is to go to the Space Wizard website, so spacewizardsciencefantasy.com, and then search under books and find only a chapter. And that not only can you buy it directly from us, and if you want a signed copy, you can buy it directly from us. But you can also find all the links to get it through Bookshop or Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever books are sold, hopefully. Um, and then also, if you're local to the Raleigh area, we do a lot of markets and cons in the area in North Carolina. So come out and see us in person, and I'd be happy to sign your book in person, personalize it for you.
Awesome. I We will make sure that all the links get in the show notes. And are you on social media if people have questions and want to reach out?
Absolutely. Yes, I am on Facebook, Instagram, Bluesky. So yeah, I think you were going to put those in the show notes as well. But the one that's harder to find is my Instagram because it's under I'm listed as Honeyjar319, and it's HUNNYJAR 319. It's a little Winnie the Pooh reference. Um, because I'm a Winnie the Pooh nerd too. Um,
I love it too. Um, we make I'll make sure that those links also are in the show notes so people can reach out. Um, I guess as we wrap up, I'm curious if you have any suggestions for someone considering writing a book or who maybe has started as you have, a couple of years back and maybe put that novel on the shelf. Any words of wisdom, advice that you would give them to help them get themselves to the published stage?
Absolutely. So first thing, if you've just started writing something and you haven't finished it, finish it. It doesn't matter if it's good or not, just finish it. Then, you know, let it sit for a bit. Write something else, whether that's a short story, a poem, whatever, an essay, anything else. Write a couple things. Go back to that original thing, read through it, maybe pass it around to a critique group. And this is not your friends and family who are all going to say, I liked it because they love you.
Right.
Um, this is like a bunch of people that you don't know or other writers that you maybe, don't are not in your close circle. Um, and then, see what they say, get some feedback from them. But the more you write and the more you read, the better of a writer you will become. And getting that feedback from people who are not in your close friends and family circle will help immensely.
I love the taking the pressure off a little bit, right? Like refocusing, go focus on a different story, go focus on something else, and then come back. And it it does sort of take that pressure off to just sit and finish, which I think can be a block for some of us.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wrote this in 2015/2016. I've written several other books since then. One of which is going to get turned into book 3 of this series. So, it's it's a process. It's not usually a one and done kind of thing. So,
Awesome. I agree. It doesn't, I don't think it should be linear. I mean, and I guess really to that point, there's really no should. It is whatever works for you. If you can, great. But at
yeah.
the end of the day, if that's not the process and the way it's going to unfold, there's a reason and let it go the way it's going to go.
Yep.
Um, Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, make sure you check out Only a Chapter and all the other great works from Space Wizard Science Fantasy. Again, we'll have links to the show in the show notes to the book. We will have links to connect with Heather. And we will talk with everyone on the next episode. Take care.